Okay, thank you.
Lieutenant O'Hara, this is going to be good. On that. So, Lieutenant O'Hara, what you have up on the screen before you, is that what you have as Exhibit 134? I'm sorry, 111.
Hold on, might be backwards here. Yes, 111, sir.
And if you could describe to the jury, and if you, using that laser pointer, what, if anything, is significant to the
This is the flagpole in front of the house. As you move south, this appears to be one of the pieces of taillight that we recovered.
And sir, Ms. Gilman, if you could zoom back out a little. Now, as far as when you're conducting this search or when the actual searching process is ongoing, what was the weather doing while you were doing it? Is that visible in this photograph?
Yes, because of the air conditioning. So you need to speak up really loudly if you don't have a microphone in front of you.
And so, Lieutenant, during the course of the process that you're conducting this search, what was the weather doing, and is that something that you can observe in this photo?
It was still snowing, and you can see some of the snowflakes falling here by the flagpole.
As far as the wind was concerned, what, if any, impact did the wind have on the course of the search that you conducted?
It was windy, but it really didn't impact how we were searching through the area.
And sir, if I could direct your attention to the next photograph on 12.
Okay.
And again, sir, what's up on the screen, is that what you have before you?
Yes, it is.
This is sort of a different perspective of the same area that you were talking about in the last photograph, is that correct?
Correct.
If I could have the next photograph, 113. Again, what's up on the screen, is that what you have before you as 113?
Yes, it is.
And again, sort of a closer perspective to the piece of taillight that you were referring to, is that correct?
Correct.
If I could have the next photograph.
Okay, you really have to speak up.
Again, Lieutenant, what's up on the screen, is that what you have before you?
Yes, it is.
And again, a closer up image of that same piece of taillight as it was observed when you covered it.
Correct. And you can see right here to the left of the taillight, that is the molding of a shovel. So this piece of taillight was picked up by one of the team members' shovels. And as they overturned it, you can see the taillight came up as they were searching through the area. And this is kind of the markings of the shovel itself.
And the next photograph.
Yeah. So we're going to have to turn the air conditioning off for this. We can't hear you at all.
The issue is I'm trying to move away from the podium.
I understand. So we need to turn the air conditioning off so that we can hear you. Yes, please.
And again, Lieutenant, what's up on the screen, is that what you have before you as the next?
Yes, it is.
If you could describe to the jury what we're looking at in this.
You can see the piece of taillight that we recovered. And again, this is kind of the overturned snow from the shovel. And again, seeing the markings from the shovel from where it was overturned.
And the next photograph is going. This particular piece, is this one of the larger or is this one of the smaller pieces that you were describing earlier?
This is one of the larger pieces, sir.
And as far as length, size of it, if you know, how much would you estimate it? How big it was?
It gets a couple of inches, but I didn't measure it, sir.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next photograph. And Lieutenant, if you could describe to the jury sort of what is depicted or what, if anything, is significant to observe in this photo.
So this is the CERT members working through the area, again, working on as a line through the grid formation. One of the things we stress is your critical separation, making sure you're close enough to each other that you won't miss a piece of evidence. If you're too far apart, you will miss that. A lot of times before searches, we will take an item of similar similar size item that we're looking for, and we'll space out because this was such a condensed search area. We just had the team members stand almost shoulder to shoulder as they search through the area.
And the next photograph is coming. And again, sir, if you could describe to the jury sort of what we're looking at, or what, if anything, of significance you observe in this.
Maybe a little difficult to see from a distance, but right here, this is the sneaker that we recovered.
And as far as the area of the curving that you indicated that the sneaker was recovered in relation to, where is that?
It's flush up against the curb.
Again, I'm sorry, using the laser.
Oh, I apologize, sir. Right here, this would be the curving right here.
The next photograph is coming. So similar, as far as this photograph is concerned, what, if anything, do you observe in that photograph? What do we?
It's a closer photo of the sneaker. Sneaker's in the bottom, right down here.
The next photograph. And again, what, if anything, are we looking at in this photograph, sir?
Again, you're looking at the sneaker. This is just a closer, zoomed in photo. And this would be the curbing right here.
And the sneaker, as it's portrayed in this particular photograph, is that as it was when it was recovered?
Yes, sir.
The next photograph is still. Sort of the other side of that sneaker, is that correct?
Correct, sir.
And is that fixed sort of its relation to the curve that you were describing earlier in your testimony?
Yes, sir. You can see the curbing right here.
The next photograph. Now, as far as the sneaker was concerned, when it was recovered, where was the snow in relation to? Was it on, around, in? Where was the snow in relation to?
The sneaker was completely buried. It wasn't until we started digging through the snow that we found the sneaker.
The next photograph is still. And this is how it was discovered, is that correct?
Correct, sir.
How it appeared when it was discovered?
Yes, sir.
Next photograph is still. Next photograph is still. And sir, in this photograph, if you could, using the laser pointer, draw the jury's attention to what, if anything, of significance you observed.
This is Exhibit 125. It's the photo I have in front of me. This might be difficult for them to see, but this is a clear piece of the taillight right here.
And the next photograph. And again, sir, what is depicted in this? 126.
See a little closer zoomed in version of the clear piece of taillight that was recovered.
As far as what the area of snow surrounding, did that sort of depict the depth at which that piece of clear plastic taillight was discovered?
Correct, sir.
The next photograph, 127. What, if anything, are we looking at in this one?
A different angle of the piece of clear taillight that was recovered.
The next photograph is Exhibit 128. So if you could describe to the jury what is depicted in Exhibit 128.
It's difficult to see, but there's a piece of clear taillight right here. I can see with the photo in front of me, but I'm not sure if the jurors can see it from that distance, but there is a clear piece of taillight in this location.
Next photograph, 129. Again, if you could demonstrate to the jury what, if anything, of significance you observed.
Again, there's a piece of clear taillight right in this location.
Different piece of taillight than the one you were referring to previously in the prior exhibits.
Yes, sir.
Next photograph, 130. What, if anything, what are we looking at in this?
Again, there's a piece of clear taillight. Again, might be difficult from the distance for the jurors, but It's in this location here.
Next photograph, 131. What, if anything, is depicted in Exhibit 130?
There's a larger piece of red tail light located on the ground in this location.
And the next Exhibit 132. What, if anything, are we looking at in 130?
It's a closer photo of the same piece of tail light right here located on the ground.
The next Exhibit 133. Now, what, if anything, is depicted in 130?
There's a small piece of tail light, I believe, in this location right here.
And lastly, Exhibit 134.
It's a small piece of tail light right on the ground right here in this location.
John, may I approach?
Yes.
Set those 24 away and just take a look at those and look up when it's finished.
What's that, sir?
Do you recognize those?
Yes, I do, sir.
What do you recognize those?
This is the mapping system we use to map evidence we recover.
Are those diagrams created pursuant to that mapping system?
Yes, they are.
What's contained in those diagrams, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of where items were recovered in relation to various markers on scene at 34 Fairview on January 29th in the afternoon?
Yeah, the marks showing on the map, they're a little offset, but that falls in the range of error with the handheld GPSs.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'll vote to seek to introduce. No objection to the maps.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, may I publish those to one in each succession to the jury?
Yes.
Now, Lieutenant O'Hara, what you have before you is the first diagram, 135. Is that what's up on the screen?
Yes, it is, sir.
You mentioned something earlier in your testimony just now in regard to sort of items being found in close proximity, creating some overlay with the GPS system. Is that correct?
Correct, sir.
And you mentioned range of error. Is that correct?
Correct, sir.
Can you describe what the range of error is and how that impacts sort of how it's depicted in this particular diagram?
So for GPS's typical range of error on a clear day is up to 16 feet. Obviously, we didn't have a clear day. We had atmospheric conditions, cloudy, snowy conditions. GPSs can be affected for their range accuracy by a few different things. One is the satellite geometry. As I said before, the GPSs connect to 4 different satellites. You also could have signal blockage. Blockage could occur from trees, buildings, bridges. Then you have atmospheric conditions, like I mentioned, and then you have the receiver end, any issues with your receiver end, which is actually the handheld GPS. Those would be the four main issues and why you may have a little offset on your GPS readings. But again, typically under clear sky conditions would be up to 16 feet.
And so using the laser pointer, if you could direct the jury's attention to what, if any, sort of significant markers or what has been marked on this particular diagram.
I've listed as the command post, which is where my vehicle was parked. We have the address, which is the house, 34 Fairview. Then as you move further south, you'll see the first red plastic that we recovered, which again was a larger piece of red plastic. They're kind of stamped on top of each other, but you'll see the sneaker, you'll see a second red piece of plastic, and you'll see the fire hydrant all marked on the map.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next diagram, please. Again, so what's up on the screen, is that what you have before you as Exhibit 136?
Yes, it is.
And again, if you could describe to the jury sort of what we're looking at in this diagram, or what, if anything, is different between 136 and 135.
We just changed the layering on the map just to make it a little easier to read. So we removed the taillight pieces, and now we just have the sneaker and the fire hydrant listed on the map here.
And that area, as far as you were talking, sort of the concentration of the search was in the area of the flagpole and the fire hydrant, is that correct?
Correct, sir. And we started closer to almost directly across from the front door. The evidence recovery all happened between the flagpole and the fire hydrant.
And if you could, or if it's possible on this diagram that you have up on the screen, could you, using a laser pointer, direct the jury's attention to sort of where the search began and where the items of evidence were located?
Search would have begun right in this area. And as we moved south, we started finding pieces of evidence right around here.
And then the area that you went, about 5 or somewhere between 5 to 10 feet, is that your testimony beyond when you started to not find any more items of evidentiary value, is that correct?
Correct. We had gone past the fire hydrant, hadn't found any other pieces of evidence for it's probably closer to 8 to 10 feet, and that's when we suspended the search.
And so just using that laser pointer, if you could direct the jury's attention to that 8 to 10 feet, in which direction was that from the items of evidence?
Heading south towards Chapman Street, so down in this location would be where we stopped.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor, may I approach this to retrieve?
Yes.
Now, sir, at any point in time that you were on scene, were you able to look at or see any sort of photographs or any images of the damage to the taillight?
No, I was not.
So fair to say that at the time that you're conducting your search on that particular afternoon, you weren't aware of how much taillight could be there or how much you might be looking for, correct?
Correct. We did not know how much damage there was.
Now, so you talked a little bit about, well, let me ask you this. As far as from your training and experience in relation to conducting these types of searches, are you familiar with a term known as POD?
Correct. So that'd be probability of detection.
And I believe you've referenced earlier in your testimony some variables that go into that terminology. Is that correct?
Correct.
And can you describe to the jury sort of what some of those variables are and how it related to this particular search?
So probability of detection, it winds up turning into a mathematical formula to make it simpler, give us more of a baseline objective on how well we did search in the area. Covers 10 different categories. We'll rate those categories 1 through 10 on how we feel we did and kind of come up with a score to give just a baseline on what we think percentage-wise we would have found the objects we're looking for. Those categories would include the terrain, as number 1, hazards would be 2, lighting would be 3, weather would be 4, vegetation would be 5, which in this case would have been some of the grass we encountered as we got on the front lawn. As you continue on would be your spacing, which again is how the team members are separated as we're searching through the area, the tactics you're using, the area size, then the team composition, and then the last one is instinct and variables. And really the last 2, I think, is what works best for us. What stands out most about our team is your team composition and the instincts, just for the experience we have in searching.
So was it those variables that sort of led to the conclusion in conjunction yourself and Lieutenant Tully as far as to cease searching at that particular point after you had gone 8 to 10 feet south of the evidentiary items without locating any other evidentiary items?
Correct, sir.
Thank you. I have no further questions of this witness. Thank you, sir.
All right. Cross-examination.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Lieutenant.
Morning, sir.
Sir, so you will agree with me that it was Lieutenant Brian Tully who first called you at 2:32 p.m. to ask that your team come out for an evidence search?
That's correct, sir.
And you knew at that time that Lieutenant Tully was he was in charge of the Norfolk County State Police Detectives Unit, correct?
Correct, sir.
Attached to the Norfolk County DA's office, correct?
Correct, sir.
And you also knew Trooper Michael Proctor at that time?
I knew who he is, yes, sir.
And you knew that Trooper Michael Proctor was in the same unit as Lieutenant Tully, correct?
I don't know if I knew he was assigned to that office. I'm not sure where he was assigned, sir.
You've since found out that he is.
Correct, sir.
Now, you told Lieutenant Tully during that phone call at 2:32 p.m. that you would make your team available that day, correct?
Yes, sir.
But at that point in time, Lieutenant Tully specifically held you up, right? Because he didn't have authorization yet?
Objection.
Is that true?
It's not.
Okay. He told you that he did not have the green light, correct?
He had not requested official response from sir at that time.
So you were not authorized to respond at that time, correct?
No, neither one of us are allowed to dispatch my team. We have to send up formal requests to get authorization to respond.
All right. Now, by 2:32 p.m. on January 29th, when you first spoke to Lieutenant Tully, snow had been falling consistently in Canton since the early hours, correct? The early morning hours?
I would assume so, yes, sir. It was at my house.
I'm sorry?
It was at my house, so I would assume so, yes, sir.
But you lived in Massachusetts at that
Correct,
time, right?
yes, I did, sir.
And you weren't hours away when you were contacted by Lieutenant Tully, correct?
I was not, no.
All right. Now, you were aware that John O'Keefe's body was found on Brian Albert's lawn at 6:03 that morning?
I believe when I spoke to Lieutenant Tully, he told me around 6:30.
Okay. Well, let's go with 6:30 then. So when you received the call from Lieutenant Tully, snow would have been accumulated from 6:30 a.m. approximately to approximately 2:30 p.m., correct?
Yes, sir.
And so snow had been accumulating at that point when you first got the call for about 8 hours after the body was found, correct?
Correct, sir.
Now, before you conduct a search, is it important for you to know in general terms the working theory of the police and the investigators in terms of what had happened at the scene?
It's not. I want as detailed information on what we're looking for. As far as the investigation's concerned, that's not interesting to me. I'm not interested in those exact specifics. I just want to know where you would like us to search and what you need us to find.
Right, but in order to know what you are seeking to find, you'd need to learn from the investigators what they believed happened that would leave that evidence, correct?
Correct, sir. He told us we were looking for pieces of taillight from a vehicle.
All right. You'd also want to know prior to getting to the scene who had access to the scene before you got there, would you not?
I did not need to know that information, no, sir. And I did not ask that.
All right. Is it important to maintain the integrity of a crime scene before it's searched or processed?
Sometimes, but a lot of times when we're involved in searches, we might not be out for days later. If search efforts have been exhausted and they don't think any evidence can be recovered, we will go out to scenes that have been left unsecured for days on end.
Sure. No, I understand that, but that wasn't my question. My question was, is it important to maintain the integrity of a crime scene before it's searched or processed?
No, you can leave it unattended if you don't believe it'll be disturbed or anything will be taken, sir.
Is it preferable to leave a crime scene unattended prior to searching it?
No, I think they would have searched it before we arrived, yes, sir.
Again, I'm going to ask if you would. Please just
Oh,
respond to my
what
question.
my preference would be, sir, yes, I'd prefer that it was secured.
Okay, that wasn't very difficult.
Apologize.
Objection, Your Honor.
So, no comments, Ms. Giannetti.
At the time that Lieutenant Tully first called you, were you aware that no one from law enforcement was controlling that crime scene?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
I was not aware of that, no, sir.
Were you aware at that time that no one had been controlling it for about 6 or 7 hours before you were called?
I was not aware of that, sir.
Were you aware that the scene had been abandoned by the police and investigators at about 7:50 in the morning?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
I was not aware of that, sir.
Were you aware that the scene was left open to the public for hours before you were asked to search?
I was not aware of that.
All right, in any case, when you got there was only one trooper on scene, and that was a trooper from your unit,
Correct, sir.
Beausoleil?
Correct.
Nobody else was guarding the crime scene at that point, correct?
There was not.
In fact, at that point, did you know where specifically on the property you were going to be searching?
I did not.
And in your experience, is it proper procedure in an investigation that requires a search for law enforcement to give up control of the area that will be searched?
It's not unusual for us to respond to scenes like that, sir.
It happens, but is it proper procedure, sir, to give up control of an area to be searched prior to the search?
If they don't think anything will be recovered in the meantime, sir, it's something we encounter all the time on our searches.
Right? So in this case, is it your testimony then that the investigators didn't think that anything would be recovered?
Objection.
I'll sustain the objection.
All right, well, you recorded that there was a second alert regarding this case at 2:53 p.m., correct?
That was the initial alert, sir.
Maybe we're getting into semantics here, but you were first notified at 2:32 p.m. by Lieutenant Tully, correct?
That's him calling me. The 253 alert is sent out to my full team.
Okay. That 253 alert is the second time that you're receiving information about this case, right? The first being 232 from Lieutenant Tully.
No, that's not new information. That's me taking the information I received from Lieutenant Tully and sending it out to the rest of my team. They were not aware of the circumstances yet.
So you were the one to send out that second alert, or that alert?
West team supervisor, because I was going to start clearing my driveway. So I reached out to a West team supervisor. He sent out that alert.
And who was that?
That was then Sergeant, now Lieutenant Simpson.
And the alert that Sergeant Simpson sent out was an instruction for members of your team to begin clearing off their cruisers and their driveways to get ready to go, correct?
That was an availability alert to see who would be available to respond.
And that they should begin clearing off their cruisers and driveways, correct?
Yes, so they would be able to respond.